Well, here in Washington, D.C., there are mounting concerns over a violent crime wave that have leaders in the city scrambling to answer to their angry constituents. Tensions surrounding crime in the city reached an uncomfortable new high after Mike Gill, a former Trump administration official, died last week after being shot during a carjacking spree on K Street. K Street, it should be noted, is normally a relatively safe part of town where D.C.'s many lobbyists work. Now, here's a local report on this killing.
But first, some breaking news tonight. Mike Gill has died after being shot during a deadly carjacking spree in the district. Gill was a member of former President Donald Trump's administration and served on the D.C. Board of Elections.
Police say Gill was shot on K Street Northwest Monday night when the suspect got into Gill's car and opened fire. Police say the suspect later went on to shoot and kill another man that night before being shot by police in Prince George's County, Maryland. Gill leaves behind a wife and 3 children.
D.C. Councilwoman Brooke Pinto introduced a piece of omnibus legislation designed to curb the violence in the district to be voted on tomorrow. Let's take a look.
Today, I am sharing that I am moving Secure DC, my omnibus legislation, which combines several bills and hundreds of provisions as one big package for a vote out of the Judiciary Committee next week. My Secure DC omnibus includes the strongest and most effective solutions that the Judiciary Committee considered this fall to address the emergent public safety crisis in the district.
The law's introduction comes as efforts to recall DC Councilman Charles Allen over his local criminal justice policies pick up steam. As Bloomberg reports, lobbyists and Capitol Hill insiders are hopping on board as volunteers in the effort to oust Allen, including vast swaths of Democrats who worked with former President Obama. So it does seem like there's a bipartisan interest in doing something about this, and unsurprisingly so, given that the carjacking rates in D.C. have doubled over the last year.
Yeah, and the number of homicides last year was way up. So throughout most of the country, violent crime increased during the pandemic, but has come down precipitously. It's falling virtually everywhere. It is not falling in D.C. It is up. It has continued. I'm looking at this chart from Semaphore showing, what is this, 200? This is like 280 or so homicides last year versus the year before that was I think it was 200. And the chart is, it's up for D.C. For everywhere else, it goes up and comes down. I was recently trying to do some digging to understand what is D.C. doing wrong? What is unique to D.C. that, like, this is not true of Philadelphia or New York or San Francisco? What is going on in D.C.? Part of it is our jurisdictional issues, that we're a city that is, there are areas of the city, swaths of the city, there are disputes between who's supposed to be in charge of that area, the city or the federal government. Our crime is handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office. In virtually everywhere else in the country, the person in charge of prosecuting criminals is someone who's either elected by the people or is appointed by someone who's elected by the people of that city, of that municipality. Our U.S. attorney is appointed by President Biden, who is, elected by the people of the nation, but it's not a direct kind of accountability, and that makes a difference. There's also a lot else that's gone wrong. Apparently, our crime lab, DC's crime lab, was decertified over it had a lot of problems. So they're not. This happened a number of years ago. So evidence, forensics, has to be outsourced to a crime lab elsewhere, which creates a massive backlog. And it seems like that was the right decision to do it because it had a lot of problems, but that's also slowing down the system. Look, there's tremendous frustration. The mayor's very frustrated. The mayor thinks prosecutors need to bring more prosecutions. Prosecutors say we need more, more direct. We need the laws to be changed and updated because judges are going to throw out our cases when we bring them. So there's a lot of blaming other groups, but it is a huge problem because, as we've noted, crime very much up here.
Yeah, I'm looking at this omnibus
this is
bill.
right outside. We're on K Street. This is right outside. I was at my other office at DuPont Circle. There was a fatal murder, broad daylight, 4 o'clock. I live in an area of the city where I can see cars smashed the next morning, broken glass everywhere. It's Anyway, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I haven't witnessed that where I live, but I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. I'm looking at this omnibus crime bill, and I'm just struggling to understand what people think is driving this and how these changes, these legal changes, would manifest in any differences. There's an aspect of it that is about police oversight and restores transparency to the police department. I'm not sure what relationship that has with these carjackings. There's a part that would increase penalties for gun possession, which might make some sense, but I think would run counter to the politics of some of the people who are primarily concerned about the rise in violence, who talk about it a lot. Is the more conservative audience that makes a lot of political hay out of rising violence in blue cities going to also support the idea of increasing gun penalties for gun possession, expanding pre-trial detention for youths, so holding juvenile offenders in secure detention facilities as opposed to releasing them. It seems like there is a capacity issue there, not an issue of like being overly generous with bill reform and the like. And the question, the humanitarian question of whether or not we want to be in a position of keeping large numbers of minors in jail for extended periods of time before they've been charged with a crime is a real issue.
I'm looking again. I asked a friend for some of these statistics, and it was very helpful. It says in 2022, this U.S. Attorney Office declined to prosecute in 67% of arrests, which is the highest rate in any city in the country.
For carjackings?
For any arrest, for any reason. 67%.
Right, but it's important to know if those were marijuana, drug possession cases.
This is for adults. This is not for juveniles. This is only for adults.
Well, so that also is like completely different categories of people. So what I want to know, if we're talking about carjackings, is what percentage of people reoffended because after they were let go from having been charged previously with carjacking or some similar sort of violent crime. That's the only relevant statistic here. And as I'm combing through, I was trying to find out what it is that is driving this recall effort against Charles Allen, who we described in the read. And again, he's hosting a town hall tomorrow about the rise in carjackings. I went through his record. He has been elected and reelected. He seems to be popular. It's just not clear to me what it is that he's accused of doing wrong or what he should have been doing differently. And I do think that in moments like this, where there's obvious tragedies, this guy left 3 children behind, might kill, this is a tragedy, and people are looking for resolutions are kind of, I think, lashing out in various directions to try to do something. But it's just not clear to me that people have a real grasp on what is driving this kind of discrete and unique escalation of a particular kind of crime in D.C. And I don't know how you start to try to reform it until you have some better understanding of what's going on here. In the Mike Hill shooting case, the Washington Post reported that this person, he's not just some average carjacker. He was going on a rampage.
He was on a killing spree. He killed someone else,
and
too.
they reported that he was believed to be undergoing a psychiatric crisis at the time of events.
Yeah.
Now, is that typical of most carjackers? I don't think so. And should this tragedy then be used as a example of how we should design policy to prevent this sort of thing from happening? This might be a different sort of thing from the typical sort of thing that happens, even though superficially carjackings are involved. I just don't know.
Sure, but we need whatever it's going to take. I think there's a broad agreement. I mean, everyone I talk to in the city these days is very worried about crime because we can see it. It's happening, and the statistics do bear it out. That the carjackings need to be dealt with. Yes, maybe this is a different kind of problem, but Congressman Henry Cuellar, Texas Democrat, was carjacked while he was in his car. He was made to get out at I don't quite remember if it was at gunpoint or at knife point. That happened just a few weeks ago. So anyway, it is a problem. We will continue to follow it. More Rising right after this.